William Gladstone was a British politician and scholar in the 1800s who made the fascinating observation that while Homer, the author of such works as the Iliad and the Odyssey, wrote about many colors, one color he never used in any of his stories, not once, was the color blue. I know, random, right? Except there was another chap who picked this work up named Lazarus Geiger, and he actually went a step further. According to this article, he looked for descriptions of any color in millennia-old copies of the Koran and the Bible and the Torah. And he concluded, and this is important, quote, "These hymns of more than 10,000 lines are brimming with descriptions of the heavens. Scarcely any subject is evoked more frequently. The sun and reddening dawn's play of color, day and night, cloud and lightning, the air and the ether, all of these are unfolded before us again and again, but there is one thing no one would ever learn from any of these ancient songs, and that is that the sky is blue." Now think about that for a moment, because it's a stunning notation on the sky. Ancient Hebrew uses the word Tekhelet, which translates to color of the sky. And in Roman work, Tekhelet goes by the name hyacinth purple. The color of the sky in ancient times was not blue, it was purple. But why? Don't forget to click that like and subscribe button, and welcome to Cataclysm 23, Purple Rain.
Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain.
One day in my research on the Grand Canyon, it occurred to me that what I was looking at were millions of layers of very real material buildup that went thousands of feet deep. They were all parallel to each other, and in my observations, it covered vast expanses of North America, equally. Generally speaking, the current theory is that limestone represents eroded sedimentation and organic material that died and piled up over millions or billions of years on the bottom of an ocean, and then something happened to the ocean, and then erosion carved out a river. Unfortunately, when it comes to the Colorado River Basin story, there is no giant eroded sedimentation pile at the end of the Colorado River. There is also no mountain eroded to a nub from whence the original material was acquired either to make the Grand Canyon. I want you to seriously ask yourself, does this not look like an awful lot of rock to come from fish poop and erosion? Doesn't it seem logical to ask the simple question, where'd all the sedimentary rock come from in the first place? Because we should be missing a huge mountain at the very least. If you have not watched the Ganymede Hypothesis, you should, because Ted Holden aced the explanation on how our solar system actually formed, utilizing electric universe principles. One of the reasons I like the Ganymede Hypothesis and their proto-solar system model is that the alignment of the solar bodies into the Herbig-Haro object then explains how two relatively tiny bodies in the vastness of space were so perfectly aligned that they nearly collided. They were aligned from the very beginning, and the collapse of the Herbig-Haro object meant that the aim was quite naturally perfect. In his model, the Earth sat in a southern polar configuration within the now planet Saturn's heliosphere, beneath Venus. In the second part of the hypothesis, he describes the conditions that produced a gas giant, which was the brown dwarf sun of an early Earth, where Earth resided inside of its magnetosphere. In other words, we were in a small magnetic bubble of Saturn in a mini solar system, and Saturn sat within the Sun's much larger magnetosphere, which included all the celestial bodies of our current solar system, which were all created in the Herbig-Haro object. First, I'm going to suggest that the light of the brown dwarf is not white or yellow, but rather red, meaning the red light refracted off the oxygen of our atmosphere produced not a blue sky, but a purple sky. Additionally, based on the layers of limestone, I'm going to say that much like the current sun, which emits atoms of every known element in the universe in its solar wind, the brown dwarf star only put out a fairly basic element in a positively charged molecule, and that element was known as manna from heaven. This highly positively charged molecule of lime and water coated and layered the planet like a gobstopper over hundreds of thousands, or perhaps even millions of years. This is why the layers of the Grand Canyon are so deep. There's no mountain missing. The material wasn't there. This also explains the angular unconformity at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, where these limestone rocks seem to have been dislocated and then new limestone piled directly over the top. The positively charged lime manna from heaven made everything grow, and it was truly a golden age with purple skies and huge flora and fauna growing on a much smaller Earth. This model continues to support the Ganymede hypothesis by adding in another element of the Herbig-Haro collapse. The planets increased in mass. We get proof of this thesis in the Medusa story. Venus sat above the Earth and was known as the princess in the temple of Athena, Athena being the Earth. As the legend says, Venus was raped by the god Poseidon, which is to say, Venus became waterlogged. The water and lime that bathed the Earth from the brown dwarf star Saturn finally reached critical mass within the heliosphere, and Venus's orbit destabilized and began the collapse described by the Ganymede hypothesis. This missing water is perhaps what makes up the rings of Saturn today. If you are looking to identify the original surface material, the red clay of Poiki and Atlanta and thousands of other locations around the world represent the original composition of the surface of the Earth. That the manna is said to come from heaven then means this fine red dust would create a regular mist of purple rain, a purple rain that probably felt pretty amazing to bathe in. Prince's song is not just beautiful music. It brings our collective consciousness back to a moment in great antiquity, a moment of a golden age, where we found ourselves bathing in the purple rain. That's why we connect so deeply with the sentiment. Collective consciousness is some really weird shit, brah. Peace.
Oh,